Well, good morning from Plano, Texas. I am here at the trails. Let me show you real quick. I'm here to get a run in. It's a Saturday morning, beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky. And strangely, there is no wind, because usually there's a boatload of wind here in the Dallas area. But just look how green this is. It's been a while since I've gone this way in the trails here. But I wanted to do a video this morning on a review of Howard's Blend plant-based protein powder, which I prepared for this recording. I have a bag with me. So I asked her permission that I can go over her review. There was something moving there. I asked her permission if I could go over her review, give a reply to her review, and give her name, and she gave me permission. So, Martha, thank you so much for the review. I always appreciate any review, good or bad, and she gave me, I considered it constructive criticism of the product, and she didn't say she didn't like it. She just gave some constructive criticism feedback, so I appreciate that. So I'm going to go over. I wrote down what she said because I don't have my phone with me. And I'm going to give feedback on it. So here we go. First thing she said, and this is reading from her direct message on Instagram, which you can direct message me at Howard's Blend. The consistency, that was the first thing. She said it was kind of like drinking flour, like flour that you used to bake. So what I get from that is that it's kind of packy and also gritty. So gritty would be like, if you can imagine, like maybe not the best analogy, but drinking sand, like something where it's like the particles, in this case, the particles of the protein powder are, when you're drinking it, you can feel the particles. In the industry, and this goes for like food as well, it's called mouthfeel. Like, how does it feel when it's actually in your mouth? That kind of sounds weird, but I think you get my point. And yeah, I agree. To me, it doesn't bother me, the kind of the grittiness of it, the packiness of it, which I'll talk about more in a second here. That doesn't bother me. Some people, it's a big deal to them. They don't like the gritty flavor. The mouthfeel is extremely important to them. And it's an individual thing. Some people didn't. Some people are different. As I said before, she didn't say it was a bad thing. She just said, hey, this is what I experienced. So there's a few reasons for that. For one is plant protein powders in general. In general, for the most part, they are gritty. And that deals with the source of the protein. And I guess I want to say this first. This, I have not, my response, I have not like verified it, looked it up, done deep dive. This is just kind of my initial thoughts that I've written down. Like, okay, she said this, blah, 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 blah. These are my thoughts on it. So it's my opinion. So it can't be wrong. It's my opinion. Factually, it may be wrong, but it's my opinion. But it's the source of the protein powder. So obviously, plant-based protein powders are from plants. The vast majority, I would say 90% of protein powders out there that are vegan protein powders, their primary source of protein is pea protein. It's relatively inexpensive, and I mean, of course, now it could be all out the window with all the supply chain issues going on, what's going on in the world. but relatively it's inexpensive, and it's a good source of protein. It has a decent amount of protein. So that's what's used. Now, you're actually trying to extract, and when I say they, the manufacturers are trying to extract the protein from the pea. 1 second. Pardon me, my allergies are getting to me already. They're trying to extract the protein from the pea itself. And as I talked about in my episode of Howard's Blend, 1 second. Can't even hear myself think with the plane flying overhead. It's called Peas in a Pod. I actually go over different manufacturing processes and procedures of how pea protein is made. Pea protein concentrate, pea protein isolate. I would think if a product uses a pea protein concentrate, it would be even more gritty because it has more of the fiber, the carbohydrates in it, over pea protein isolate, which they're really trying, they, again being manufacturers, are trying to extract as much of the fiber and the carbohydrates as possible and just get as close as you can to just the protein from the pea. Howard's Blend uses pea protein isolate. Let's see, what else did I write down here? Yeah, so pea protein isolate is the most abundant source of protein in the product. And I can imagine, again, I don't know this for sure, but different manufacturers have different manufacturing processes. I went over a couple of them in the episode Peas in a Pod, but there could be other manufacturing processes that I'm not aware of. It could also be, in terms of the grittiness, it can change depending on where they source the raw ingredients. Where do they get the pea protein from? Does the manufacturer who puts together the product, do they even make the pea protein? Or is it made before it gets to the manufacturer just puts it together? Don't know that. And I don't know that for Howard's Blend, and I don't know that for other brands as well. That would be something to talk to the brand about or the manufacturer. If that's a big deal to you. Let's see, what else is there? Now, hemp protein. So the second source of protein in Howard's Blend is hemp seed protein. Again, the key is in the name, hemp seed protein. You're trying to extract the protein from a seed, which again, you could get, I'm not saying you're getting bits of the seeds, but you're getting more of the plant material in the product depending on the manufacturing process and the, pardon me, I guess you could say the quote-unquote filtration process that is used to extract the protein. And it could be, again, one manufacturer could be completely different and have a different taste than another manufacturer. And as I just said, it depends. Does the manufacturer even make the protein? Or do they just get it from their raw ingredient supplier, and then all the manufacturer does is put it together into the final product? They just mix it. Is that all they do? So, and then you have, okay, what raw ingredient supplier are you using? There are different ones, different area of the world. Are they getting it from China, which could have a different taste than if you're getting it from South America or even from America or something like that. But hemp protein is also, just like with pea, and it depends, but it can be very gritty as well. That can cause it. So, and I'll talk more about hemp protein in a minute here. I got some more thoughts on the first comment, which was the mouthfeel. I'll leave it at that. Now, this is something I did not talk to her, so Martha, if you see this, please let me know. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just, again, giving feedback, my thoughts on it. I just wrote down my thoughts on it. And this is just in general for anybody, how you mix it, how you mix the product. Are you using a shaker bottle? Are you using a spoon, like a glass and a spoon to mix it together? Are you using a blender? I would recommend, and I brought this along in preparation. This is the trifold packet that you get when you order the product. So it has how to get in touch, which these were printed before I took down howardsblend.com. It's no longer up at the moment. I may bring it back up, or I may do smbnutrition.com. I own that domain as well. But, the Instagram and the phone number, all that works. But then on the back, there's directions on how to make it. And I say here, yeah, well, actually I didn't list it. Oh, I thought for sure I listed it, but I didn't. And that's my fault. So, but I recommend using a blender. I do not recommend using a shaker bottle. I do not recommend using a spoon. If you talk like a whey protein isolate, those you can usually mix just with a spoon or in a shaker bottle. It's very easy for it to dissolve. It's more soluble, I guess is the term. Whereas plant-based protein powders, they can as well, depending on the protein powder. I've tried that with Howard's Blend. I didn't have a really good result with it. I recommend using a blender. I have a NutriBullet that I use, and I've had that NutriBullet for like 7 years. I just change out the blades. I have the little attachment that has like the 6 blades on it. I run it for like 30 to 40 seconds, and then I have had no problem with it. I can taste a little bit of grittiness, but again, to me, it's not a problem, so it's more of a personal thing. But this goes to kind of like the packiness of it as well, is that blend it up using a blender preferably. Again, to your preference. If you use a shaker bottle and it tastes fine to you, hey, more power to you. But also the amount of water that you use. On here, I do have it on here. I say add 6 to 8 fluid ounces to start. So 8 fluid ounces is about a cup. So, 3/4 of a cup to a cup. That's just to start. Add more or less depending on what your taste preference is. And if you add more, then it's going to be less packy. That's what I get, where it tastes like flour, which is real thick and hard to drink. If you add less, then obviously it's going to be thicker. So that's just general suggestions. Let's see. Yeah, so that's we touched on that. Another one is for the mouthfeel of it is add fat when you mix it. Now, I'm going to give a couple of, actually a few suggestions here. What I do in my protein drink is I put nut butter. So I use like a peanut butter, cashew butter, Brazil nut. It's like a mixture of a whole bunch of different types of nuts. And I put about roughly like a tablespoon in there. And when I blend it up, the fat in the peanut butter, it gives it more of a quote unquote smooth consistency in there. Now, if you're going to use a shaker bottle or a spoon, which again I don't recommend, but you can certainly use it, you may be able, and I've done this before, is put maybe like a tablespoon or so, maybe less than that, of olive oil. Definitely not like vegetable or anything like that. Those aren't good for you. But like an olive oil in there. It may not taste great because it get all of it in your shaker cup, will be like an oil slick. But the fat could help with the consistency. It may make it more smooth all the way through. Of course, in a shaker bottle, the oil may not be mixed too well. So I don't know if you want to do that or not. I have some other suggestions, a couple other suggestions here in a second for a shaker bottle. But yeah, definitely you could use fat. It depends on your caloric requirements. I mean, if you're counting your calories or whatever, and using a nut butter or using oil is too many calories, and it's not to your nutrition plan, then here's the other suggestion, is to use something like milk. Now, obviously milk isn't vegan, but me, I use the powder not because I'm a vegan, just because I prefer plant-based powders. Milk give me a little bit of issues with my stomach. So if milk doesn't cause you a problem, and you're not ethically or nutritional wise against using an animal product, put milk in it, preferably whole milk. But if that doesn't fit your nutrition requirements, because whole milk has more fat, you could use like low fat milk, skim milk, something like that, where again it's it makes it a little more creamy, I guess is the only, the smoothness to it. It may help, but I recommend that you blend it. But milk may work in terms of using a shaker bottle. If you are, vegan, or you're trying to avoid milk or whatever, you could use a plant-based milk, oat milk, is it almond milk? Sometimes I use almond milk. But that's one way, or there's a couple of ways there that you could actually mix something else in the product to make it less gritty, less packy, and using a milk, it may still taste halfway decent instead of it just tasting like really like water, because you're having to put a whole bunch of water in it and it's not really adding much to the taste. Because taste is important. It's one thing I've learned. My goals and my ideas for the products then go, I hit the wall when it comes to, okay, but it actually needs to taste good, because like me, and I'll talk about this I talk about this more in a second, but I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Me, I don't really, taste is not a huge deal with me. I mean, it's important, but I can chug down, a protein powder without really any sweeteners in it and stuff like that. So it doesn't bother me as much. Let's see, what's the next on the list? We got that. Oh, you can come this way. Oh. Lady Turtle went the other way. I didn't want to dissuade her from coming down this way. Let's see, what else? We talked about adding the milk. We talked about that. Yeah, so that's pretty much my thoughts on that. What I wanted to do is I wanted to acknowledge what you said, and then say, okay, these are possibly the reasons why, or at least the reasons I know why. Manufacturing, the source of the protein powder, where the manufacturer's getting the raw ingredients, how it's produced, which is all stuff I don't know. All right, and this is part of learning as a brand owner, is that as I go on, as I scale, the idea is I will have more, for lack of a better term, power then to kind of dictate what the manufacturers do. Not all the way, but I'll have more leverage to say, hey, I want this instead of this and that. I have more pull, because then the manufacturers know, like, hey, this guy, he makes a lot of sales, he brings money, we're gonna get good money if we follow what he says. You have more pull on it, and that happens with any industry. As you get bigger, you can dictate more terms, which benefit everybody, the manufacturers and the consumer. Let's see. Yeah, the next part of it was, she said she thinks this is the taste, and she said it was a strong pea flavor, which I will bring that up here, so you can taste the pea protein. And she says, I think this is normal for plant-based powders. It's like a quote-unquote natural flavor. So this goes into the first part with the pea protein, is what I talked about at the beginning, is that as far as I know, and I've looked at the nutritional content and the ingredient list for other vegan proteins, pea protein is the most abundant, right? So the way if you look at a list of ingredients on a product, like here, I'll show you here. This perfect example, perfect timing. See, I'm always thinking ahead. Here's the ingredient. Here's the ingredient list. Right there. So the first ingredient is pea protein isolate. So we talked about that earlier. Good morning. So we talked about that earlier. The pea protein isolate is where you take the pea protein concentrate and then you filter it down, and there's different filtration processes to remove like the carbohydrates, as much as the carbohydrates, the fillers, the fiber as you can, in order to try to obtain just as much of the pure just protein from the pea as possible. So what that means is that in Howard's Blend plant-based protein powder, that pea protein isolate is the most abundant ingredient in the product. So the next would be organic hemp protein. Again, when I talked about hemp protein, can be those two ingredients there can be very gritty. All right. Then it goes into the natural flavors, blah, blah, blah. Stevia, guar gum, that adds to like the thickness of it. Spirulina, kelp, dulse. Or I've heard it dulce or dulce. I've heard both. It doesn't really matter. The point is that when you look at a list of ingredients on a product, the one listed first, that means that is the most abundant ingredient in that product. And then as you go down the list, left to right, you read, then it's less and less concentration of that ingredient in the product. So like if you look at Coca-Cola, the first ingredient I bet would be like carbonated water. That means the majority of the product is carbonated water. That's the most abundant ingredient. It's the same with supplements, foods, etc. So, it's predominantly pea protein because again, it's relatively inexpensive comparatively, and it does have a taste, but compared to other sources of protein powder, and I'll use hemp as the example, it's relatively neutral flavor. Although I can taste it, I've bought 100% pure pea protein before, and I had really no problem with grittiness at all. And I can taste it a little bit, and it depends if it's unflavored, flavored. Again, it could differ by the manufacturer, where they're sourcing the product from. There's so many different variables that can actually affect the taste, the mouthfeel, whatever. But to her question on that, or to her comment on that, yeah, the most predominant source of protein in Howard's blend is pea protein isolate. So it's going to taste more like pea. Well, that didn't come out right. It's going to taste more like pea protein, not PEE, PEA. But she says she thinks that's normal for plant-based products, and it has like a natural flavor. Well, if it's normal, yes, depending on how it's flavored. So this gets into the kind of the last part here, and I've gone for 22 minutes on this. The last part, like the quote-unquote, this is how plant-based protein powders taste, natural flavor. The technology's gone such a long way. I mean, back when, vegan protein powders first came out, I remember everything was like chocolate. It's like the only flavor Howard's blend available at the moment is chocolate. And then vanilla that was unflavored. But now I was looking up not too long ago, there's like carrot cake flavor, birthday cake flavor, there's peanut butter chocolate bar flavor. I mean, there's so many different, there's a number of different flavors and technology that has expanded to make the product taste better, which can mask the taste of the pea protein. And this is where was button heads with two different sides of, you could say, two different ideas for the product. Was, for me, I wanted to make a product with the original formulation of Howard's Blend when I was experimenting with it, putting in a tablespoon of this, putting in a teaspoon of this, whatever. I wanted to use as few ingredients as I possibly could. I wanted to try to make it taste, decent, but the idea is like you're getting a product with as few added, you could say, necessary, unnecessary, whatever ingredients as possible. But then that runs up against the idea that who's going to use it if it doesn't taste good? This goes into what I talked about earlier. When I was experimenting in the kitchen, I've talked about turning my kitchen into the laboratory, mixing different ingredients, and I put in a lot of hemp seed protein, and like literally my flavoring was I took raw cacao, which is very bitter, and a little bit of monk fruit extract, which is a natural, quote-unquote natural sweetener, and that was it. And then I drank it, and did it taste great? No, it tasted horrible, but I was okay with it. I could continue drinking it, it's like, well, because it was more like a function over the taste. I knew exactly what was going into it because I mixed it all up, et cetera, et cetera. So the point is that yes, without like all the newfangled technology and the flavoring systems that are available, yeah, it's going to have like a natural taste, especially Howard's Blend, because I'm just looking here at the ingredients. I mean, the only thing I can see off the top of my head, it has natural flavor, which is like artificial. They say natural, but that doesn't mean it's coming from the ground. It can be artificial flavoring and stuff on it. And it's got the sweetener is stevia. That's it. So stevia can also be very bitter too, and you don't want to use too much because since it's bitter, it could mess up the taste. And some people don't like stevia. So could the flavoring be better? Yes, but that's room for growth. Like I was saying, is that the technology in terms of the flavoring has gotten so advanced that, some of the natural taste of the product of vegan protein powders, it can be masked by these advanced flavoring systems. This uses stevia. Most vegan products that I see, I would say the majority, I of course haven't done deep dive into it, but I would say the majority that I see use like monk fruit, use stevia, because most people who use a vegan protein powder, they're trying to avoid like artificial sweeteners as well as, animal products, whether it be that they're vegan or, ethical reasons, or maybe milk products like a whey protein just doesn't sit well with them. So there's, these new flavoring systems are better at masking that flavor. Well, this one doesn't have, it's a chocolate flavor, but it's not, to me, it seems like it's very simple compared to other products. When I say simple, I'm talking about the flavoring system. So then it can have a stronger taste. Add to that the second ingredient, hemp protein. Hemp protein, I love hemp protein, but it tastes horrible. I've used this analogy before. It's like if you imagine mowing your lawn, whether it's a push mower or you got a riding mower, whatever it is. I prefer push mower. Put in some work into it, folks. You got to sweat. Push mower, you take the lawn clippings that's gathered in the lawnmower, you throw it in the blender with water, and then you drink it. That's what hemp seed protein tastes like. It is horrendous tasting. But this is the second predominant ingredient, second most abundant ingredient in the product. It's going to have it's going to be harder to mask it when you have hemp protein. Not impossible, and it depends how much is in it. I mean, even though it's the second most abundant ingredient, there could be just a very little bit of it. You could have 5 grams of one ingredient, then the second listed ingredient, there could be a half a gram. It goes way down. It's just, but then you get my point. Let's see, 1 second here, these people coming up. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? I'm all right. Just going to enjoy the day.
Absolutely.
Y'all be careful. Thank you very much. You get my point. It's like the first ingredient, carbonated water. Well, I guess we'll use this. The pea protein, there could be, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
No, I'm all right. Thank you. You could have, 5 grams of it, per serving. But then the second ingredient could have a half a gram. And then the third, 0.4 grams. And then the fourth, 0.3 grams. You get my point. So the hemp seed protein can also make it taste more natural. And ultimately, to wrap it up, because I think I've covered more than what I plan to, a lot more than what I plan to, what are the plans? Like, how am I going to fix it? Well, for the time being, not much. Again, she didn't say she didn't like it. She was just giving her feedback on it, which, again, I appreciate anybody who gives feedback on the product, good or bad. If she came, I know she wouldn't say this, but if she says, Howard, your product fucking sucks. It tastes horrible. It made me want to vomit. I knew she wouldn't say that, but I'd be like, okay, thanks for the feedback. Let me see what I can do. I can tell you that right now I am, balls deep into getting the pre-workout produced. But the next version of the protein powder, I want to change the ingredients to make it smoother. And for those of you who know about protein powder and protein powder ingredients, I gave the key word away there, smooth. So you kind of catch my drift on that. I also would like to take advantage of maybe trying different flavors, like the, not necessarily birthday cake or carrot cake or whatever the hell that. Good morning, y'all. birthday cake or carrot cake, whatever the flavoring system is. But just take advantage of flavoring it better. Good morning. Flavoring it better, to kind of mask the quote-unquote natural flavor. The product now, Howard Blend, I love it. I use it every day, and I believe in it, and that's the big thing. I believe in it, but there's always room for growth. There's always room for improvement. Never stop progressing. So don't worry. If you're looking for a better tasting one, hey, I understand. Everybody's different. All I can tell you is that I'm going to work to continuously try to make the product better. It's a great product, but there's always room for improvement. So, Martha, thank you very much for the feedback. And to everybody out there, I always appreciate the feedback. You have the wonderful trails. I'm walking back up to go back to the car to get my compression socks and everything on so I can go run, because I got a lot of work to do today. So let's do one last look here. See, the parking lot is like right over there. There's the entrance to the parking lot there. So I had to walk up that. Keep forgetting to move the microphone. I had to walk up that. I was just walking around in there, down towards the creek, and then the parking lot is right here. Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go. And if any of you are in Plano, Texas, you can hit me up, because we can run the trails together. Come out here and have a Howard's Blend running group. I'll be happy to run with you. I'm not that great. I'm getting back into it because I've had some injuries that have knocked me out for a bit. So I'm not able to go near as far as I used to, but I'm working back up to getting that distance in. But yeah, I'd love to run with you, especially the good-looking ladies out there. I'll run with you anytime. Martha, if you come back to Dallas, I'll go run with you out here at the trails, Arbor Hills. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. I'm out.